Okay, Nick and Andy, massive game at Old Trafford this Sunday. Man United against Liverpool, two bitter rivals colliding once again. Nick, I'm going to come to you for your thoughts on this one. It's early in the season, so we haven't seen much of these teams. New look teams with a new manager at Liverpool, a lot of new players at Man United. What are your thoughts, mate?
My thoughts are I still kind of feel bad for – I don't feel bad for Manchester United, but I feel bad for the reset button. The reset button just was broken when they smashed it, because to not have Højlund available for this game, assuming, is I don't know, it just takes something out of it. I when Bruno Fernandes has to worry about scoring, I think they're at their worst, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And Liverpool look complete right now. They have not allowed a goal, twin 2-0 wins. They have been in absolute control of the game. And say what you will, rightly so, about the fact that it's a little less exciting, and Anfield definitely seemed quieter last week. Well, quieter is fine if you win the league. And they've given up 1.5 good chances. Again, competition noted, over 2 weeks. So I look forward to the rivalry bringing the leveler to the playing field, because I think everything else is kind of conspiring in favor of Liverpool.
Yeah, I think we will get some of that where it does balance it out a little bit. I also think just the newness of Arne Slot at this point is there's still a lot of stuff to work out, and this Liverpool team playing the way that he wants to play has not been into one of these, fiery games as of yet. They've not had one of the derbies, and so this is going to be something a little bit different. Obviously, you have to go to Old Trafford. This is the time I think you probably want to get Liverpool, in terms of where they're at in the project now, just having a couple games, and they have looked very, very good. But there's not there's more control, less dominance, I guess, this year from Liverpool. And so we're going to have to, or at least I am, going to have to kind of retrain my mind of how to think about some of these teams now that they've moved on from, iconic managers. The midfield is particularly interesting to me for Liverpool because there's no traditional six. There is no defensive-minded midfielder in there. There's a lot of players who are just really comfortable on the ball and can play out of any situation, and I think that's probably what Slot is going for in terms of how he's configured that with Gravenberch in there, with McAllister, whether it's Szoboszlai ahead of them. So it's very fluid at the moment, and there's a lot to figure out, I think, when you play that kind of style, and I think we'll see United have a few opportunities in this game on the counter, especially because we've seen how much Liverpool are going to have possession now. They're not going to be as open on the counter, but I still think United are going to get chances there and cause Liverpool some problems.
I mean, Nick, last week, United kind of caused themselves their own problems against Brighton, didn't they, when they lost at the Amex? It was very similar to last season in a lot of ways. The way they kind of just big defensive mistakes, couldn't finish off enough of those counterattacks, like Andy mentioned, that they have a lot under Erik ten Hag. It just feels like defensively, the balance is just still off a little bit. Obviously missing some key players, Luke Shaw, others. De Ligt just getting settled in as well. They should improve in that area. But I think there is, even though they lost to Brighton, like more optimism and positivity around United. I speak to a few United fans and they're like, well, we still capitulate at times and we did at Brighton. But last season just felt like kind of constant capitulation during a game. And it seems like they just maybe got a bit more control this season and seem a bit more relaxed and understand what they're doing. Is that just because the ownership have backed Erik ten Hag and the players are like, okay, he's going to be here now. This is the plan. This is what we're going to do. And like we spoke about before in the transfer segment, they actually made some really good additions this summer. So it's kind of just like, be patient, and it should probably be a lot better than last season. But not saying it's going to be, but it probably should be a lot better for United this season overall.
No, I almost entirely agree with you. I just think it's difficult with this club to live in a vacuum. And if you could live in a vacuum, you'd look at the club and you'd feel pretty decent about it. You would say, oh man, shucks, if Højlund was healthy or Xerxes was comfortable and in there and De Ligt had more time to bet in, well, they easily, and by the way, XG-wise, clobbered Fulham. They just didn't finish. We were getting texts from Andy during the game because he was on duty for opening day, like, oh, this looks familiar, and that they just weren't finishing. And then Brighton's a pretty good team for that particular challenge. There's, in a vacuum, this team feels like they're going to be fine in a couple of months, but you're going to lose in theory. You're going to lose in theory to one of your historic rivals this weekend. and we're going to have to deal with a certain subset of people who have their own preference for their boss or who should be the boss, bringing in Ten Hag out questions. Can you not predict that, by the way? If you predict a Liverpool win, can you not predict this whole week being about how it's the manager's fault?
Probably, and that'll be 2 defeats from the first 3 games. So the kind of crisis button will be hit early.
It shouldn't be, is the point. Yeah.
But it shouldn't be. You're right. But there are bigger expectations this season, I think, right, Andy, with United, with the signings that they've made this summer and the fact that Ten Hag's been backed. It's, you won the FA Cup. That's great. You're back in the Europa League. Should probably go very far in that. Made some big signings, but it's just hard to know when to judge this Man United team because it just seems constantly in flux. And I don't think the manager is to blame here, really, because they've only just got a new structure, the football side, in at the club. This is going to take 6, 12, 18 months longer for us to really know if United are going to be successful long-term with Erik Ten Hag. And just don't know if the fan base or anybody connected has really got that much patience with the club.
Yeah, we've been saying that for 6, 12, 18 months, 6, 12, 18 times at this point with Manchester United. Just the cycle that they are in, if you think about they're stuck in the same exact part of the cycle, and they just keep kind of repeating the same thing over and over and over. As you guys are talking there, I'm looking at the lineup they put out against Brighton last weekend. They should have lost. They should lose with the lineup that they were able to put out, whether through injuries, whether through availability, whether through bad transfer business now or in the past. Like Bruno having to kind of play as the false 9 is going to handicap the team, as Nick already pointed out. But Mason Mount, incredible flop since he's gone to United, and I think they probably would like to move on. Casemiro still pulling starters minutes in midfield again because they've not gotten a signing in less than 24 hours before the deadline. The back line has Harry Maguire in there once again. So I understand Lenny Yaro got hurt in preseason and maybe he would be in there, and Matthias de Ligt is still getting bedded in at the club. But again, these are problems that Manchester United created for themselves, and it's part of why they've already lost a game in kind of embarrassing fashion this season. Amad Diallo, do we think he's a Manchester United level player?
Could be, but needs time.
Could be. And so I'm just looking up and down the team, and it's, Brighton should have beaten that team, and they did.
But let me say this though, and I hate being in defensive Man United guy because that's very difficult to do these days. But when you plug de Ligt into that team and you plug Fernandez down, even if you were playing Rashford or Xerxes up, but obviously Højlund there as well, the depth, and again, fullbacks aren't going to win you the Premier League, but with Shaw, Mazraoui, Dalot, I mean, there's some very good players there, and wingers, to be fair, seem to grow on trees now. So if your center backs are good, which we haven't had at Manchester United in such a long time, because Lisandro Martinez, who was supposed to be the athletic guy next to Varane, he would have helped things, but Menu helps Casemiro be better, and de Ligt helps Casemiro be better, and instead, you're asking Casemiro to be 2018 Casemiro. So the point that Joe made before you started and the points you're making, they work so well together. Whoever's in charge needs 18 months to do this. And Anthony is obviously his fault as well, but this is a project.
I fear it's always going to be something at Manchester United that's holding them back. I guess that's the moral of the story that I come to after 10 years now. Post Alex Ferguson. Yeah,
I mean, Ugarte looks like he's going to be really good in midfield alongside Kobbie Mainoo, and probably is going to take Casemiro's place. So there is, again, we talked about it, clear plan, I think, in terms of transfers and proven international quality players that they aren't spending huge amounts of money on, but they fit into a system and the style of play which gives you belief and hope that this time is a bit different, and they can consistently be in the top 4 of the Premier League, which is the very least that Man United should be doing with the resources available, the pull of the club, all the rest of it. The academy graduates coming into the first team now, Garnacho, obviously Diallo's been excellent in spells, and then Kobbie Mainoo, I think, is the X factor in midfield as well. So I'd be interested. Nick, when we talk about Liverpool, different style, you said it at the start, kind of a bit boring, right, to watch them right now, and I mean that in the most glowing way possible compared to Jurgen Klopp. It's not like any of these games have been in jeopardy so far, and it's just just been smothering opponents with the possession and just never really giving them a chance. So I think Arne Slot, his start's been pretty great, right? I think it couldn't have gone much better than this.
It's the opposite of what we've been saying about David Moyes at West Ham, where it's like, look at all these weapons and he's just sitting back. Well, the cool thing is that Slot came in here and he said, I think I got some midfielders who can just control the game here. Some world-class type guys. And Szoboszlai, who is not a lazy man, to be in a position where he's more advanced, but is also kind of like just this hyper number 8 playing as a 10. And then the X factor here. And he's always going to be the X factor. And shame on us for thinking he had reached the end of the line. The best thing to come out of the awkward moment at the end where it didn't seem like Mo Salah was pretty happy with Jurgen Klopp and maybe not giving him his flowers is this looks like a guy who absolutely wants to prove to the world that he was more than a system and is one of the best players in the world. And Mo Salah, streamlined Mo Salah with his short hair, looks absolutely fantastic.
Okay, so Jurgen Klopp, Bill Belichick, Mohamed Salah, Tom Brady.
There's something to that. Yeah, sure.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. Yeah, Salah's been great. I mean, I think he interesting comments recently, obviously talking about his contract situation. Him, Van Dijk, Alexander-Arnold, all out of the contract at the end of the season. We know we're going to be talking about that all season long, but kind of said, I just want to focus on the now, just proving myself every game. And he kind of said, I want to enjoy the final year. So I don't know if that was just a slip and a little bit lost in the ramblings there, but kind of would be very Mo Salah. I had him down as being the top goal scorer in the Premier League this season, purely because whenever I watched him in pre-season, he was fired up, and he was one of the few players like Erling Haaland, like Martin Odegaard at us, who didn't have a huge tournament to play in this summer, had a rest, which is very, very unheard of for these players now at the top level of the game. And I think that did him the world of the good to reset his mindset. And you're right, Nick. I think he's enjoying proving himself in a slightly different style of play, and kind of maybe just got a bit stale under Jurgen Klopp and what was expected week in, week out. So, yeah, Salah's the X factor.
It reminds me a little bit of when Hazard was the key piece out wide or in the middle for Chelsea, or even any Man City team pre-Haaland, where it's clear that the focus is to get the ball on the right side of that guy, and there is a mix of attacking talent around him. I mean, did you see how good Gakpo looked? And he's not at Euro, and he's not starting. Have you seen how good Darwin Núñez has looked for Uruguay? And I know he's blamed for missing so many chances last year, and he's not starting. This is a deep group of attackers, and the focal point is out wide, and he's loving his football right now.
And yeah, you just add Federico Chiesa to that mix as well, with a bargain deal right at the end of the window, just to bolster it even further. So, yeah, tough start for Man United. I'm going to go with a 2-1 win for Liverpool. I think that's going to be my prediction. Andy, coming to you for the next one.
1-1 draw. I think it's going to be a lot less exciting than it seems on paper. The style of Liverpool and just the lack of familiarity and just the cohesion coming together. Interesting game, very tactical, but yeah, 1-1.
Nick?
Yeah, look, I think in any other context, I would go for another 2-0 for Liverpool. But there's just something about these big rivalries where either it's because guys get a goal early because they're amped up, or they just don't quit late because it's the rivalry. And you've got a guy like Bruno Fernandes in there who's a difference maker. So I'll go 2-1 with that little asterisk saying, I'm saying it's closer because of the rivalry.
2-1 to Liverpool, just to confirm.
Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. So it's going to be a fun one at Old Trafford. We'll have it covered on Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for this massive game this weekend. Early in the season, two bitter rivals collide. A lot of new players for Man United, new philosophy for Liverpool. This is going to be really exciting. It always is. Nick and Andy, thanks so much for joining me. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll speak to you all very soon indeed. Cheers, guys.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And if you want even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.